Yep. Yep. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Don Marsh from CENSE. Yeah, please take floor. Yeah, I will unmute you. Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Kazuki, and hello, everyone. This is a new experience for me, presenting virtually. It's usually take my cues of the audience interaction from live people. So this is definitely different, but I hope that I can convey the information that you want to hear, and I'll be very happy to have your questions after the presentation. So I've purposely tried to make this a high level so we can move pretty quickly through it, and yet give you information that's pertinent to two transmission projects that PSE is pursuing in our area and through our neighborhoods. So let's see. Somehow I need to take control here. Kazuki, do you have to give that to me, or how do I get my screen up?
Okay, just a moment.
Okay.
Make host. Okay, I'll make it host. Do you wanna? Okay, I made you host, so you should be able to
Good.
share screen.
Very good. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Okay, and that should, okay, hopefully everybody can see that. Let me just do one other thing. Oh, okay, it's good. All right, so I put together this presentation for your group tonight. And as you may know, I'm the president of CENSE, which is the Coalition of Eastside Neighborhoods for Sensible Energy. We've been contesting Puget Sound Energy's Energize East Side project for more than 5 years now. So we've learned quite a bit about it. And I'll be telling you a couple of things that you may not have heard. You may have heard that the city of Bellevue approved this project, and there's a lot more to say than just that. So in addition to Energize East Side, I will also be talking about the Lake Hills Phantom Lake transmission project, which is happening right now on 148th Avenue and Northeast 8th Street. If you've driven anywhere in that area in the past few weeks, you will have seen a lot of trees getting cut down, approximately 300 trees. And so I'm also involved in a group that's a special project of the local environmental group, 350 East Side, and that's called 300 Trees. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what's happening there. And then usually in this presentation, I also tell you about some very exciting initiative potentially coming up in this November's election to create a East King County Public Utility District. But we've got a special speaker who knows all about that, so I'm going to, I'm not going to do much more than just mention it in this presentation. Okay, so getting back to Energize East Side, you may remember seeing this graph, which PSE showed us back in 2014 or 2015, which shows electricity usage going up and up and up over time. And eventually they said it would pass a certain system capacity threshold in like 2018 or maybe 2019, and we'd be in for some blackouts after that happened. And the very important thing to know about this forecast is, first of all, it was for a winter scenario. And it turns out that demand for electricity has not been going up in the winter time. That's partly because our winters have been getting warmer. Also, there's been a lot of great energy saving lights and devices and smarter use of energy. So we have records from PSE that PSE submits to their federal agency, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, that shows that our electricity demand in the wintertime has actually been going down for most of the last decade. So this scenario isn't really working out for them. And they sort of tacitly acknowledge that in the Bellevue and Renton hearings that have happened so far, where they didn't even mention a winter scenario. They were talking all about how Energize East Side was needed to mitigate rising summer demand. And now it is true, actually, that although winter demand is going down, summer demand is gradually going up. And that's partly population growth. It's partly using more air conditioning. But it's not going up at a rate that really makes their case. And there's something else that's really inconvenient for them about the summer argument, and that's that solar panels work really good in the summertime, especially when air conditioning is cranked up. It's usually because the sun is shining, and if the sun is shining, you're getting maximum output from your solar panels at that time of year. And this is actually stated in the environmental impact study for the project. It says solar panels could actually handle the increasing loads in the summertime, but because solar panels don't work so well in the wintertime, we still need a winter solution, so we just don't need to worry about solar panels. But now that the winter case has actually collapsed, then this question of how solar is doing in our region is much more relevant, and becomes even more relevant if you factor in batteries, because batteries can allow you to store cheap solar energy that you're generating most strongly, around the middle of the day, and then use that electricity when demand peaks, either in the morning hours or later in the evening. So this is a really compelling story, and a lot of utilities are banking on solar panels and batteries. It's one of the cheapest forms of energy we have, much cheaper than coal or natural gas. So that's, it's really good news for the environment. But anyway, just to see how things were developing in our area, I asked the nearby utilities, Seattle City Light, Tacoma Power, this Snohomish Public Utility District, what their solar capacity was, how it had developed over time. And each of these utilities, within a couple of weeks, gave me back the data that allowed me to create this graph that shows increasing solar capacity over time. PSE actually doesn't like to answer questions, so they just told me the number that was for 2019, which was about 60 megawatts of installed capacity throughout their territory. So the dashed line you see there representing PSE's growth, that's actually somewhat extrapolated. We knew what it was back in 2011. We knew what it was in 2019. And so this is a reasonable guess at how that has developed over time. But the big point is that we're seeing about 25% growth year over year. And now at this time, we have about 6 times the capacity we had when Energize East Side was first introduced. And that's not something really that PSE took into account. So it's a big hole in their argument, and it's one that we are going to bring up at our next hearing in Newcastle. But just to make sure we leave nothing to chance, we also engaged a nationally known consultant to study what the potential was for batteries in our area. And we've got some really, really amazing results, which I would love to share with you, but I think we're going to wait and unveil that at the Newcastle hearing when that comes up. And so that's a question: when is it going to come up? We do not have a date for the Newcastle hearing, and as soon as that date is picked, probably after the coronavirus situation calms down, we will certainly let you know, and you are certainly welcome to come attend that hearing. And in fact, having a good turnout will really demonstrate to the hearing examiner that this is a big question, a big concern for the community. The Newcastle hearing is going to be especially interesting because of the 3 cities that have heard these hearings, Newcastle is the most skeptical of the project. It goes right past their downtown and one of their nicest neighborhoods, and within like 100 feet of their city hall. Co-located with the pipelines, of course, it's a real safety question for the city. And so we feel like the city is going to be a little bit more on the skeptical side than the other cities have been so far. So so that's Energize East Side, and I want you to know that we're feeling quite optimistic about this. But one of our insurance policies, if somehow we can't convince hearing examiners or judges that the facts really matter in this case, we still have one more chance, and that's the PUD vote that our next speaker is going to be talking about more. We feel that if a public utility was formed in this area, they would not continue to pursue this transmission project because the facts aren't there, and they wouldn't be driven, as PSE is, by a need to increase revenues for their investors. So that's the situation with Energize East Side. Now I'm going to switch hats and to tell you a little bit about 300 Trees. 300 Trees is a special project of this local environmental group, 350 East Side. But it's really a large coalition of different groups. Some of them are neighborhood associations. Some of them are environmental organizations. We've got a faith group and indigenous people, all trying to work for a better solution than removing all these trees on 148th and Northeast 8th. It's really going to make a big difference in the feel of our city. It's not a good move for the environment, and it's really a questionable benefit actually to the community, because this is not a transmission line that's serving increased need for electricity. It's really just to prevent a power outage in a very, very rare circumstance. It's only happened twice in the past 13 years. And one of those power outages lasted only 15 minutes and was actually a voluntary shutdown by PSE. So it's not a great benefit, but the project cannot be stopped at this point. So we're just looking for, is there a better way to do this? And I'll just say, yes, it is too late for these trees. These are pictures taken just a week or so ago from various locations along the route. And it's sad to lose these trees. But we are hopeful that there is a solution that could allow us to replant full-size trees and not have poles and wires running over these streets. And that is by putting the power lines underground. So this is a solution that has never been studied by PSE. They do tell us that undergrounding these wires would cost like 10 times more than putting them overhead. And that actually is true if you use a traditional trenching technique, which requires you to dig up your streets and chop off, a lot of roots on your trees. So you have to take out a lot of trees. So that's not really a winning proposition. But the directional drilling technology that has been perfected ironically to produce cheap natural gas is actually being used by many utilities to put lines underground at any depth that's necessary. So you can actually go underneath, as you can see on the right-hand side here, you can go underneath existing utilities or tree roots, and it's really minimally invasive to the street and to the community. So we wondered, is this technology something that could be used here? So the 300 Trees volunteers contacted 3 directional drilling companies that operate in our local area and got actual cost estimates that were much cheaper than anything PSE has ever estimated. So we have put this into a proposal that we have shared with PSE, with the City Council, with the East Bellevue Community Council, and we're sharing it with the public to say, here is a possibility that doesn't save the trees that are already gone, but if we replant those trees in in some years, or in some cases in some decades, but we will regain the beauty of the park-like appearance of this street. And for something that we're going to live with for 50 years, it's really a good investment. And to defray the additional cost, which is not too much, we think it could be done for as little as 3-4 million more than the overhead line, but we feel that we can go to Bellevue's major employers and say, hey, could you kick in $500,000 to make this 50-year difference in the the environment and beauty of our city? And actually, I think a lot of these companies would be very interested in contributing to that. It's good for their sort of eco-friendly reputation, being a good partner, a good neighbor. So we think it's very possible that we can defray the expenses to the point where it would be well under the cost to Bellevue citizens, would be well under $0.25 per month. So if you can find $0.25 in your seat cushions every month, that's the maximum that it would cost, with a little help from our bigger employers. So there's something you can do to help. If you go to 300trees.org, you will see this is the home page that you'll see there, and you don't have to read it here. I'm just going to point out quickly what you can do on this page that would be really helpful to realizing this vision. So the first thing is there's a link to the proposal. If you're interested, you don't have to read this. It's about 15 pages long, but lots of diagrams and things, so it's not a hard read. But if you're interested in details, like, is this really feasible? Is it economically, doable? This, I think, will answer a lot of questions. And of course, you can also ask questions here and online. We're happy to really put some flesh on this, some details on this proposal. The next thing is there is a suggested list of people that you could email to express your support for this idea. And we have a couple of links, depending on whether you use Microsoft Outlook or something else, that you can just click on the link and it will generate the list of recipients, and then you can just fill in a short message. And when I mean short, I mean you can make it as long as you want, but really just saying you think this is the best option for Bellevue. And maybe if you want to, you can say, you really are disappointed that citizens didn't get an opportunity to have more input on this, because it was really, it was done in a way that, I guess I would just say it was sneaky, and only 9 citizens showed up for the crucial hearing, and only a few of those actually spoke. So we really never had a chance. And from then on, we have not been able to talk to council members. PSE isn't really hasn't been participating with the public very much. So we'd like to change that. And then, as long as you're there, you might want to check out this little video. It's about 90 seconds, and it shows how people value the trees that are on these streets, and it's got a kind of a catchy song that has really really appropriate lyrics. So something fun to do while you're at 300trees.org. And I think that is all the information that I wanted to share right now, but I'm happy to I made it short so I would have time to answer some questions if you have any on either Energize East Side or the 300 Trees deal. And Kazuki, if you want to take control back. I'm finished with the presentation.
Thank you, Don. Yes, okay. Heidi, you wanna read the question? I unmuted you.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Dawn, we had a question that came in and it said 148 floods every year. How about raising it a few feet and putting the wires in under the slightly raised pavement?
That's possible, but very, very expensive. When you talk about road work, then it's a whole nother ball game. So knowing that our council members are very, very sensitive to costs, I think that probably wouldn't be their favorite option. The thing about this directional drilling, the wires can be placed at any depth. So I asked the companies when I was able to interact with them, and they said, yeah, anywhere from 3 feet down to 20 feet deep, no problem. So that's way, way below where the tree roots would be, where any other electrical or sewer infrastructure, whatever. It's all probably within 3 to 4 feet of the surface. So you go down a little farther, and the directional drilling technology is just so amazing. I learned a lot about it as I was researching this, and they have precise control over what depth they are at any point, so that the drill bit can go up or down, it can go left or right, it can do bends and turns. It's really pretty fantastic stuff. So the fact that it is so cheap, we got estimates anywhere between, actually these 3 estimates came in anywhere between $1.5 and $2 million. And that might sound like a lot to you and me, but that for an infrastructure project, that is literally dirt cheap. So we're quite excited about not only what this means for that project, but this really opens up a whole new world of possibility where PSE has been saying now, undergrounding is just too expensive, and there are places now where undergrounding could be done, and it wouldn't break the bank.
Okay, does anybody else have questions? That was the one that came in. Feel free to send them in the chat box. I haven't seen anything else that came in.
Okay, well, also maybe what we could do is, as people are thinking about that, I could come back at the end of Randy's presentation, and we could have even combo questions between these 2 things, because I know he has a lot of really, really great information to share that goes way beyond what I've said, and it might inspire questions, sort of across these topics. So if there aren't any other burning questions right now. Oh, go ahead.
One did come in right after I asked that, and it says, do we know what the budget is for the current Lake Hills project?
We know from federal reporting what PSE has spent so far. And this is the amazing thing, even before they started chopping down trees, or before poles and wires go up, they had told their federal agency that I can't remember the exact amount, but it was already in the $4 to $5 million range, and they hadn't even really started the physical part of it yet. So we can guess that the total cost of this is probably somewhere in the, I don't know, maybe 7-8 million range, and that's a rough guess, but sort of extrapolating where they are and where they're going, that's probably not too far off. So a $3 million or $4 million increment on that, it's something, but considering that this is a 50-year investment, divide by 50 and then divide by the number of people in Bellevue, and we're talking about a very small investment per per person here. And I really think this is something that sort of defines a feeling in our city, especially in the East Bellevue area, which doesn't receive quite as much attention as like the downtown area and the Grand Connection. So there's a little bit of an equity question there about how we treat different parts of our city.
Super. Well, that was the last question that was in at this point. So I think you're right. Maybe we turn this over to Randy and then do a